Okay, so now that we understand the homeowner's perspective, let's move on to the second concept, which is communicating effectively with our homeowners. So in today's world, there's lots of different ways to communicate with people, right? But the challenge is to know which methods to use to be most effective, like we talked about with my wife and my dad and the CEO. So I've identified 5 methods of communication, and I'm going to share with you how to best effectively use each of them. So the first is text messages, right? Everyone uses text messages. We know that they can work, but again, in certain circumstances. So another thing is the group text. Some people dread the group text. They never, ever use it. There's definitely wrong times to use a group text. I'll tell you, be very careful if you ever put your homeowner into a group text, because if you have your homeowner and your subs together and 2 months later he goes back and he starts talking to the subs and he thinks he wants answers right away. So there's 2 great ways to use group text. One is, I think group texts are great within your crew, right? So if you've got 4 or 5 guys working on something, you're trying to get an answer quickly, that's the best way to do it. Even if you need some interaction, it's going to be a lot faster than trying to get all of you guys on a conference call. The second group text approach is when you're dealing with couples. So that's how I make sure that the husband and wife are on the same page. If I need a decision made, I'll send a text message to the husband and the wife. And that way, when the wife responds, the husband will see it. Okay, so next are voicemails. Voicemails are a terrific way. If you want to just download a bunch of information, give an update, voicemails are a great way to go. But remember that a voicemail is a one-way communication, so you can't really get a decision made on a voicemail. Okay, third is phone conversations. So in today's world, so many people, they don't want to talk on the phone, right? Send me a text, leave me a voicemail. But in construction, communication is key. So don't overlook the importance of getting your client on a phone conversation, or even better yet, a face-to-face communication. Okay, here is my favorite method to communicate, which is emails. Emails have transformed the way that I manage construction projects these days. I can manage multiple construction projects now that I could have never done 10 years ago. But it's not just about sending emails, it's how you manage and work with your emails. So here's a couple of things that I do. First off, in my email, I use Outlook. I create a separate folder for each of my projects, and I move all of my emails into those project folders. So at the end of the job, I have a full documentation, but even while the job's going on, if I want to find a message or something, it's easier to go back to that. So another great idea that I implemented that someone told me is I have a waiting for reply folder. So anytime I send an email out that I know needs a response, I put it into that waiting for reply folder. And then I review that every day. And so I never have an email that's not being responded to. If I need to, I'll ping them. I'll hit them again. Hey, haven't got an answer. I'll forward that same email and say, haven't got an answer. Can you get back to me on that? So every day, at the end of my day, I go through my sent emails and I move everything either to a project folder, if it's an issue that's been settled, or if it's something I need a response, it goes into my waiting to reply folder. So at the end of every day, my sent folder is empty. The next thing is written documents. Even in today's world, there's no way we're going to get around not having written documents. We're in construction. You're going to need written documents. So I've actually tried to become more of a paperless office lately. And I still have documents, but they're just electronic copies. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about a paperless office when we talk about a cloud-based construction management system. Okay, so I've organized these 5 methods of communication in a specific order, and they're from fastest to slowest, right? If you just have a few seconds, boom, you can send a text message. Written documents can take minutes, even hours. But these same 5 methods are also in reverse order of the amount of detail that you can communicate, right? So a text message is fast, but it's the least amount of information that you can communicate with. Where a written document, you can do really complex communication. So in today's world, with all these other forms of communication, a lot of times stuff doesn't get put down in writing. But I really feel that the written word is still king. It is still the most important form of communication. Even if you go onto a job site and you get some decisions done there in a meeting, I always say document everything, If it's not in writing, it doesn't exist. No matter how much you trust your client, it's not about trusting them. It's just about memory. It's just about, if you have a phone conversation, send a quick email. Hey, per our conversation, this is what we decided, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, the next thing, is, including documenting everything, is, save your documents, save everything. When I get a key decision or a key information on a text message, I'll take a screenshot of that text message and email it to myself so I can put it into that project folder. And CCs, I love CCs. I CC people all the time. I know some people don't like it. My wife, she works with me. I'm always telling her, come on, you got to CC me on that. And she's like, oh, I don't want to bother you. I said, no, please, CC me on everything. That's how I know, and I can quickly get rid of it if I don't need it. CCs are another great way to keep your husband and wife on the same page, right? So when you need a key decision, you send it out and you CC the other person. Sometimes I'll get a message back from the wife. Oh, we've chosen, this tile and whatever, a square foot. So I'll reply back and I'll CC the husband. Hi, Denise, got your message about the tile, and I copied Jim. And then she may get back to me and say, you really didn't have to copy Jim on that email. And I'll say, you know what, Denise, you know me. I'm all about, communication and keeping everyone, on the same page. And besides, remember, we want to avoid that ultimate cost of construction. Okay, so the next thing about utilizing communication effectively is embracing technology. Contractors are notoriously slow to adopt new technology. One of the things that I work with my coaching clients the most on is effectively utilizing technology. So I remember 10 years ago, I showed up at a job site with my first smartphone. It was a Trio. Any of you had a Trio? It was like a glorified Palm Pilot? Yeah. And I remember showing it to the builder, and I was like so proud. I was like, Brian, I can send and receive emails on my phone. I don't have to go back to my office anymore. And he just looked at me, he has kind of a grizzly beard and kind of old style contract. He's like, Ed, why would you want to do that, man? That just gets in the way of building. I don't want to ever have to send emails from the job site. So now 10 years later, of course, Brian has a smartphone. He's sending and receiving emails all the time from the job. So another thing is by quickly adopting new technology, you can set yourself apart from your competition, which can be a great advantage when you're going up against another contractor. Okay, so I know this is not a typical tool that you'll find in most builders' tool belts, but I really believe that tablets and iPads are going to be just as indispensable to the construction industry in a few years as smartphones are now. So let me see a show of hands. How many of you use a tablet right now in your business? Actually, let me start with this. How many of you have a tablet? All right. How many of them use it in your business? Wow. Okay. So again, it's not just about having the technology. It's about utilizing it and being able to be effective with it.